Yeah.
Hey, good morning, everybody. Welcome to Talk Tuesday, April 29th. We are so glad that you can join us today. We do have an exciting hour ahead, so we're going to get going right away. And here's just a welcome. I am Christine Kuehlewind from the State Education Resource Center. I'm here also with my colleague, Holly Ryan. We are also here with our CSDE colleagues and partners, Kari, Sullivan, Custer, and Jay Brown. Today we have kind of a double type of Talk Tuesday. We're going to have a great presentation from Sandra Romero from Waterbury Public Schools. She is the Family and Community Engagement Manager. She's going to talk a lot about building relationships and what does that look like in the lens of a district and in the schools. How does that positively impact attendance? Then in the second half, we have some self-select breakout spaces. We're going to talk just a share, a collaboration strategy exchange, and it's very topic focused. We have some various facilitators that will be there just to monitor the space and the conversations, but you'll be able to self-select the topic that you're interested in talking about, sharing, or interacting with. So we ask you to kind of bring your thoughts, questions, suggestions, strategies for that share out. And then I'll just close it very quickly with just some upcoming attendance and engagement information. Just so you know, and I want to give you this slide ahead of time, these are the breakout room selections. So if you want to get your wheels turning and your thoughts going, so these are the actual spaces. We have a health and wellness topic, engaging families, middle and high school motivation, data that drives action, home visits in action, system level strategies, celebrating bright spots, supporting students with disabilities, IEPs, early childhood attendance, and shifting mindsets from punitive to success oriented approaches. And there wasn't too much on Superintendent's Digest these last few weeks. We had spring break and everything else, so I think that it's a little bit more selective. But there is a CT dyslexia awareness campaign. Also, there's new Connecticut school climate guidance out. There's also the legislatures are still asking for public comment on this regulation. The only reason I put it in here is a lot of schools are going through building projects right now, a lot of updates that have to be done. So there is details on that. You could view the link just to see, what that is about or what the possible legislation looks like moving forward. As always, we have the QR code here and the link. So if you'd like to dive in more, you could just click on the information. One thing we want to bring to your attention is that Attendance Works is offering this webinar. It's a part of the Attendance Awareness Campaign. It's the second one. It's on good health, mental wellness, and safety are essential for regular attendance. It's on May 14th. It's for us, because for Eastern time, it's at 3 o'clock. But you'll learn more about school climate, impact on attendance, ways to identify health-related barriers early, and how to hear how schools and partners are raising awareness while they improve that engagement. So the link for registration is here if you'd like to click on it. In the follow-up email, though, I will also put that they do have a document, and I will also include that in the follow-up email just with further information on it. All right, I will now turn it over to Kari.
Hi, good morning, everyone. I'm Kari Sullivan Custer with the State Department of Education, and it's nice to see you all here for our Talk Tuesday today. I'm going to be brief because we want to save our time for breakout sessions that are coming up the second half of Talk Tuesday. We also, in addition to those topics, we have experts from those areas to help facilitate and host the breakout session. So we're hoping you'll stay and you'll join a topic that you really are interested in. The next slide, please. I'm happy to say the monthly chronic absence for March was posted, I believe, last week, and we are down to 19.3, so we're back under 20%. If you go to the next slide, you'll see on the right-hand line that is March is this last dot here. But you'll see we have come down from February. We've been on a trajectory where we've been going up ever since January. So January, February, March, And then April, we came down, and every group came down about a point or so. And I know a lot of our large districts have seen a small decline in chronic absence. So I want to encourage you to keep up your hard work and your dedication to our students to ensuring that they're coming to school. And I wanted to go over a couple of points here about ending the year strategic and strong. So if you could go to the next slide, please. So who should districts focus on now? How many people here are on your school attendance team or your district attendance team? If you want to just put in the chat or raise your hand, many of you are on our attendance teams. So teams are required by state statute and law, and schools and districts that have high chronic absence. And as we know, since the pandemic, that's just about all of our schools and districts have high chronic absence. So at this point in time, we need to be focusing attention, not saying everything, but we need to particularly focus on those students who have missed 12 to 14 days so far this year. As we all know, chronic absence is missing 10% or more of the school year. And as of April 29th, we're about, depending on when you started, 150 days into the school year. Does that make sense to everyone? That means we only have about 30 left. And 10% of 150 days is 15 days absence. So any student who's at 15 days or more is chronically absent. And we want to work with those students with 12 to 14 days at risk to keep them from crossing that chronic absence threshold. Doesn't mean you don't work with the 15, 16, 17 absences, absolutely. But we want to have a prevention focus so that we can keep kids from really struggling to finish the school year strong. And so our action is target outreach, encouragement, and supports now to keep those students under 15 absences or under 18 absences by the end of the year. Next slide, please. So this is just a little quick reference I created for you for days absent. If you could put your students into buckets or baskets or tracks or bands, 0 to 10 days, those students at this point are low risk. So they need positive reinforcement to keep showing up to school. Keep coming, you're doing great. 11 to 14 days are those students we were talking about who are at risk of becoming chronically absent any day now. One bad week and those students will be chronically absent. And so 15 plus days are the students who need intensive re-engagement. Those are the students who have missed more than 10% of the school. And this is a message that you can use with your school attendance teams and your folks as we approach the end of the school year. Focus your prevention efforts on students who have missed 12 to 14 days so far. With strong attendance in May and June, these students can still avoid becoming chronically absent. Next slide, please. So this is from Attendance Works website. They have a page called the Spring Slide with resources for schools and districts and some reports and other things. There's a sample letter you can download it in Word that you can use and adjust for your needs. So there's that sample letter. There's a download of handout with activities that can encourage students to attend, participate, and strengthen relationships. There's work with students and families to create a student attendance success plan. I know a lot of our districts in Connecticut use those student success plans. So let's set a success plan, a short term, like we're going to finish the year strong with some of your students who you think it may work with to encourage them and send those incentives and rewards for that. So there's a blog post, and then there's a calendar they call Sprinting Through Spring, a calendar of sample daily spirit activities. So if you go to the next slide, I have a copy of that calendar. But as you can see, they've got selfie days and caring days and team sport days. We heard about this the last Talk to Tuesdays. We heard about fun and silliness and how to make it so kids want to come to school. We heard from Latasha and Eric and Kenneth, and we heard from London with these examples. If you did not see our last two Talk Tuesdays, these were great opportunities to hear what some of our districts are doing to incentivize and encourage kids to want to be in school every day. So that's there, and the QR code is there as well. The last slide is resources. I think this is no, that's not it. I already did the resources. Okay. So next we're going to go into, next slide, Christine. We're going to I think we're going to Sandra Romero. Maybe I should just turn it over to Christine at this point. Thank you, everyone. If you have any questions about my presentation, just let me know and I'll be happy to chat with you.
Thank you so much, Kari. Much appreciated. And
Mhm.
we are going to go to Sandra Romero next. So I'm going to stop sharing so Sandra could share her slide deck as well.
Oh, if I could just say one more thing and then I'll mute. I want to set up Sandra a little bit while she gets her slides done. Sandra is new to Connecticut. She was in New York City and she's now in Waterbury. And when we saw the chronic absence trend starting to go in the wrong direction for many of our districts, we saw that Waterbury was still seeing a decrease in chronic absence. So we wanted to say, still high. It's none of us are perfect. None of us are doing everything right. But we wanted to hear from Sandra sort of what's happening in Waterbury and what can you say is some of the reason you're seeing a little bit of an improved attendance. Thank you, Sandra.
Thank you, Kari. Thank you to the organizers for having me here today. You guys can hear me well, correct? Okay. So I want to take this opportunity for once again to thank everyone for giving me the space to talk about engaging families when supporting families with attendance. So once again, Sandra Romero, I'm a social worker by education. I'm the family community engagement manager here at the Waterbury Public Schools. I usually when I do presentations, I like to share my objectives. So no one knows it all, but together we know a lot. Vulnerability is welcome and compassion is appreciated. Story stays and learning these. I always like hearing stories and I always like to share my stories because I think that's the best place where we all can learn. A little bit about myself, because I think it's very important for people to know what my experience is and where have I learned a lot of the things I'm gonna be sharing today. So I'm a mother, 2 children, one middle school and then a high school I have at home. So you can imagine how interesting those conversations are after work. I was born in Ecuador, raised in New York City, Harlem. I love to play soccer. I am a social worker by passion. I like to be part of a change of an agent. I graduated from John Jay with a bachelor's in forensic psychology, obviously thinking I wanted to be a cop and definitely thinking I wanted to be a detective. Obviously, like every other career, it shifted and I attended my master's in social work. My favorite TV shows are Law and Order, Chicago PD, like my daughter says, anything involving mystery. That's what I like to spend a lot of my time with. I worked in the South Bronx for 8 years as a social worker, providing individual counseling for families, and eventually ended up climbing the ladder to become a community school director there. Much of my experience comes from my personal experience, but my career as well. So a little bit of what I'm going to share with you today. Just keep in mind of how I ended up opening this workshop for you guys. Engagement. So when you hear the word engagement, when working with families, what are some words that come up to your mind? Please use the chat. What are some words that comes up to you when working with families when you hear the word engagement? For me, it means commitment. It means signing up to be committed to working with someone, right? It means me being open and transparent with a person. To me, it means trust, being vulnerable, and being able to confide in that person. It means relationships. This means that I am signing up to have a relationship with a family. It means communication. It means me being open to having a communication with the family. It means me being able, signing up to be transparent with the family. This is a big one for me, follow-up. It means follow-up. It means that I'm going to be available for this family. It means me being able to follow up with the family, being able to provide the services. It means honesty, being honest with the family, being transparent and being able to share, whether sometimes the information I can share is, something that's not going to make the family happy, but it's being part of always being honest with the family and sharing the truth. And it means pledge. pledging to be committed, pledging to be able to be trust the family, pledging to having a relationship, pledging to having a good communication, pledging to always being able to follow up and always having the honesty with the family. So having all those elements when it comes to myself, making that connection around engagement and using those tools. One of the things we're trying to do here at the district, and I have seen, a lot of this, is the way we engage, and we're engaging with a purpose. If you see the slide here that I put together, the first item that I put here is engagement, right? We are not starting with addressing a concern or addressing a conversation with a family, start with attendance, but more is engaging. How do we start having the positive engagement and not having it around attendance, right? Having to get to know who they are, what are their needs, right? And then, trying to get to the beginning of those conversations rather to the end, or trying to address an attendance concern. Yes, our goal is to help them around attendance, but it's building that engagement. It's building that relationship with the families. So at our district, it is engaging our families is extremely important when improving attendance. The model here, once again, it shows you how our approach looks like. Before we even start connecting the families, we want to engage them, right? Identifying, right? So we want to identify, find out who has a positive relationship with this family, right? Because sometimes it is not us. Sometimes it's either a colleague, sometimes it's a secretary, sometimes it's the custodian, or sometimes it's just is a nurse, right? So finding out who has that positive engagement with the family before we even start having conversations around attendance. The positive communication, right? Making sure that the communication with the family is always positive. I always like to say this to my staff. Before we pick up the phone, make sure you write a good positive statement, you know, when speaking to the families, or when saying, "Good afternoon, how are you?" Whenever you start a conversation like that with the family, I don't know about you guys, the family always pauses themselves. We're in a very surprised moment, like you're really asking how am I? To me, that's a positive way of, starting that conversation and start to building your positive engagement with them. Family strengths. Every family has a strength. This is something that I learned, right? If you're not aware what the family strength is, it is very important you connect with that person who has the positive engagement to find out what is the family strengths, right? During conversations with family, it is always very important to highlight those strengths, right? A positive strength could be that they have love and support, they share values, they have good communications, right? Every family has a strength. When I used to be a social worker, one of the things I used to supervise the schools mental health clinics, one of the things I used to say to the social workers, what are the strengths? If we cannot identify a strength, then we're in trouble. This means we cannot start working with this family, right? So that's why that assessment of the family is always very important and helpful. Communications tools. Always make sure what is the communication to the family needs, right? And this is very interesting because I said this when I first started here at Waterbury, was like, we immediately, as a nature, we say, oh, we're going to use Parent Square. We're going to communicate with them. And I asked myself, how many people are reading Parent Square? And I did an assessment of myself as a parent, right? I have Parent Square, I have two schools, multiple messages coming in, where I found myself not even reading those messages because it was so overwhelming. And I remember stepping out of the office and going to the schools and asking some families around, like, how they felt about Parent Square. Some of them said the same thing, right? So we connected to it, and I understood what they were saying. So I ended up asking questions. So what do you think it will be helpful for you? Some parents was like, why can't you just create a WhatsApp message just between us and you can share the message, right? Yes, in my head, I'm like, wow, that's a lot, but that's what they need, because I do understand, and so many messages coming in, so many emails, it could be overwhelming for them. So it's identifying what communication tool works for that family, right? Not for all family, but for that family. Language. I think that's the big one I'm always in, right? Whenever I go out in schools and look at all the presentations, I do an assessment of the room, right? This is pre-work that we need to get done, right? So it's assessing. If you're gonna have a meeting with the family, assess, right? What language or do they feel comfortable? Let's not assume immediately that just because she understands English and she is going to be comfortable in English, right? I always like to ask questions when having family meetings. What language would you prefer? Right. I'm gonna share a little bit of story because remember, we learn stories and we leave with these stories. I went to a meeting and we had a couple there, and the wife approached me and she said, I understand English, but my husband doesn't. So will you be able to translate? Right. And I said, of course. Just to see the fact that she wants her husband to be part of the child's education, and all I needed it was to be able to translate in Spanish, speak, gratefully I could speak English and Spanish. I was able to have the conversation with both of them. And I understood what her goal was, to be able to help the student, because she wanted the dad also to be part of it. And I think, the last thing I wanted to share was build a positive relationship. This is just the beginning, right? It's building that positive engagement that will lead to you having conversations during attendance that eventually will lead to student success. Family engagement is a big piece. I know a lot of people, we talk about it, right? But, when families trust you, they open up to you. When families feel and sense that they can rely on you, they will be coming to you, right? And especially when we find ourselves when we want to have those very tough conversations, it's much easier, because then the family knows you coming in with a good intention to support them and to guide them, right? I put this picture because families hold their home. They're the ones who have the solution to a question or to a matter we're sometimes wondering, right? Sometimes I sit in the room and everybody's wondering, like, how do we help this child? You cannot help this child if the parent is not involved, right? The parent needs to involve, the family needs to involve, the grandma, the grandfather, whoever plays a big role in the life of these kids, they have to be involved in the decision making, right? It goes side by side, right? It's the same thing as parents. Parents at home, we cannot know how to help the child. We don't get support from the school, right? So it's building that engagement and building that relationship. And I'm going to share a little bit a story. I like sharing stories because I think those are the best ones and evidence around it. I was in an attendance meeting and we had some concerns about a specific child, right? And one of the things as a social worker, I asked and I said, where's the child coming from? And the first thing, the attendance team was like, oh, they're coming from Honduras. They speak Spanish, and mom is not involved, and he's not coming to school. He's actually going to graduate 8th grade, and he was not coming to school. And immediately the responses were like, mom is disengaged, the student doesn't want to come to school. And the mom, we have communicated with mom, we have called her, we have spoken to her, they checked off everything. But when I went in and I assessed the case and I had a positive relationship, I called mom and I did not immediately pick up the phone to address an attendance concern, but more to get to know who she is, right? So remember when I shared with you at the beginning, all my things, like who am I, where I went to school for, I used that same strategy of learning who she is. And one of the things that her and I connected was that she arrived to this country a couple of years ago. Her son arrived, I think at that moment was 6 months ago, right? And I was able to empathize with her because my parents went through the same thing, right? So I started having conversations with her and meeting with her, not inside the school, but outside the school, and just learning about it. I came to find out that her child, who was put in the 6th grade, had not attended school 2 years in Honduras, right? That he was out in this beautiful nature world, doing all the fun things, right? So coming into a school setting and going to school, getting up in the morning was something new for him, right? So I knew at that moment that our intervention had to be in a very different way, right? We had to help mom feel comfortable, help the child feel comfortable, right? But not with the intention of like, come to school. Yes, eventually that is our goal, but it was to engage them into school. It's to help mom feel comfortable, is to help him feel comfortable. So obviously myself and the other social workers and all the team that I had, we started approaching this case in a very different way. I can tell you now that he goes to school every day, right? He loves coming to school. And I remember finding him on my way to work and he will be walking. And I'm like, come on, let's go, let's make it. But it's all, one thing I always use, I like to tell this story is like, assumptions sometimes can lead us to trying to find solutions that is not going to work, right? So it is not a race. I think it's always very important to take our time, and it takes time to build relationships, and we have to be very conscious about that. And sometimes, you're not the right person, but then let's find the right person to connect with this family. And I want to end my presentation with a quote that I carry with myself every day. I've learned that people will forget what you say, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you make them feel. And to me, that's a very big philosophy that I have, because if I make you feel comfortable and I make you feel that you can trust me with everything that I said, that when it comes to engagement, I know you'll come back. And that's something that we're experiencing here at Waterbury, or shifting our way. How do we engage families, learning to hear them, being very active listeners, and being able to, help them feel welcome. That's what I hope I was able to transcribe and share with you some of the things that, sometimes we think it's very small, but they're very impactful to the work that we're doing. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Sandra, so much. We appreciate that. I love that Maya Angelou quote, by the way. I use it a lot, even in some of my own trainings, because it's so true. Like, we have so much information and so many things to share. How are we conveying that message? How are we connecting to people and to everybody around us? So we thank you for this. It's such an important piece, building relationships. So it is that time. Just give me a minute so I could swap my slides. I'm going to actually put our breakout room selections up so that you can just take a look at them to think about maybe what you would like to select. And what we will do, we will assist you if you need it. It's a self-select, but we understand some technology might be a little bit tricky and maneuvering around it. So we'll be here to support you if you need to. These are the topics. The facilitators are there just to kind of work with you, listen to ideas, conversations, maybe put some questions in that might resonate. But it's really your space to share, your space to collaborate, your space to share what you're doing, or questions, concerns, challenges. Very much your time. We planned for about 20-25 minutes. We will see how we would like to really stop around 20 minutes, because we also want to leave a few minutes to share out, to hear some thoughts, and to hear what you're thinking. We are going to pause the recording and everything. Nothing will be recorded in the breakout sessions. Maybe some notes will be taken just for share out purposes, but nothing will be recorded. So it is a safe space to really connect with each other. Kari, would you like to add anything else, or?
No, I think we're fine. I just wanted to make sure there weren't any questions for Sandra
Yeah.
before she leaves. That was a wonderful presentation and a fantastic approach to family engagement. And for someone who's new to Waterbury, and so many others are new to their work, I just wanted to see if anyone had any questions or wanted to add anything to the presentation. Not seeing any. Okay.
I'd love to just say, hi, Sandra, it's Caroline. And hi, everyone. Thank you for being here. I so enjoy hearing your approach to the work, your philosophy, sort of that mindset you really embody. I do a lot of that work with districts, and it just sounds like everything that you were describing. It is no wonder to me that your data improved when a lot of other folks were maybe struggling. It makes perfect sense to me. The way you're approaching family engagement is just fabulous. And I really appreciated the stories you shared too about how you engage with those families, and those anecdotes you shared, I think will stick with us as we move forward. So thank you for taking your time to be with us this morning.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. Obviously family engagement is a big component. But I always like to say this: everybody has a gift. You have a gift, I have a gift, our families have a gift. And it's identifying what those gifts are, right? And I think it's using those as a way to connect with our families. So just keeping that in mind.
Yes. Amazing.
Yeah. I was just wondering how you take that philosophy, and maybe I should go to the mind shift workshop or breakout with Caroline, but how do you get a mind shift change across a school district, or with all players, like all hands on deck, so that everyone is engaging in a positive way with families?
You know, I would always like my supervisor would always say to me, you know, what is your gift? And whenever I'm at a conversation, dialogues or conversations or at meetings, I'm a big observer, and connecting with individuals in a personal level is always my first thing, right? Sometimes, like I said, even asking how are you, I have sense like people are like, what do you mean how are you? Like you're asking how am I? Using in my emails also, good morning, right? Good morning, Kari. How are you today? I hope today is a well day for you. Just doing that temperature check. I know when someone is not in you know in their days like we always are, it's like I have to be able to maneuver and be able to find a way. One thing I always walk around is like, there's nothing impossible. I used to tell this to my team in New York. There's nothing impossible. We're gonna figure it out. Either we go around, we go under, we go above. We'll figure this out. It's not a race. I always used to tell them, right? And I tell the parent liaisons here, you know, what is your gift and how can you connect with that family? So it takes time. That's one thing I'm gonna say. It takes time, and eventually when you see that the person, you know, opens up and starts sharing with you, then I'm in the back of my head, I'm like, it's a win, right?
Yeah.
Whatever I can get from you, it's a win, and just
Mhm.
connecting.
Yeah, we have a saying as well as start with the willing, the people who have that gift or want to have that gift of engagement and relationships. So thank you, Sandra. I very much appreciate it. I think
Hi.
we can go to breakout sessions now. I
Yep.
encourage everyone. I don't know, there's a question in the chat about being able to switch breakout rooms.
Uh, you should be able to, but we're encouraging people to stay in one breakout because it's only 20 minutes and sharing the ideas with each other. But if you're finding it's not a right fit for you, or if there's a multiple areas, but we can't, we'll have to see if there's a lot of switching going on.
Yeah, I
That
think if you go back to the main room, I think then you
Yeah.
can pick another room.
I believe that you can, and how this is set up, because this was set up by Cirque's IT department. So, because this is the bigger Zoom platform, so I believe it will work. But also, really like to, stay and want to really exchange those ideas and thoughts. It's really a collaborative sharing experience.
It's
But if you're
wonderful.
finding it's not a not right fit for you, or you want to experience something else, you could do that as well.
Yeah. We've been reluctant to do breakout groups because we've found in the past that all our people leave. So we encourage you, please participate. There are
Absolutely.
people who really want to have these engaging conversations and learn from each other and not just from the one person talking every time. So enjoy the break.
Welcome back, everybody. We hope you had some great breakout time, had some great conversations. I know probably you wish it was a little bit longer. We'll have conversations around that. But we only have about 5 minutes to go. And I wanted to leave just a few minutes if anyone wanted to really share something from their breakout, a takeaway, topic. So you could use the chat to do it, but we would love to hear your voice. So if anyone feels like unmuting and letting us know, that would be great.
I'm happy to share, Christine.
Great, thank you.
We had a small but mighty group talking about shifting mindsets and different perspectives at the table. We had a dropout prevention specialist in New Haven Public Schools, Lori Beth. We had a nurse at a private Connecticut Coastal Academy in Deep River. And we had, that was Mary. And then we also had Cheryl from Bridgeport Public Schools, who serves as the SEL director, and sort of different challenges around these different settings and how to shift mindsets around staff, thinking about those punitive measures of OSS and suspensions, and then the challenge of shifting mindsets, especially of secondary kiddos who might be more excited to spend some time outside in the spring weather, not at school. And then really interestingly, Mary was sharing about how they don't really have attendance issues at their outplacement setting because there's a lot of personalization and customization, differentiation happening, really high touch in terms of numbers of teachers and fewer students. So thinking about how we can take those lessons and apply them to the more traditional settings as we work to shift mindsets. So appreciated the contributions from the folks in the room.
Thank you so much, Caroline. Absolutely. Any other groups would like to share? We have another minute or so before we wrap up.
I'll try to be very brief.
Great.
We were early childhood um intervention. We had a very small group as well. But one thing that we did towards the end of our group that I found really helpful was kind of modeling how we would talk to parents about the importance of being in school, which I don't think gets really talked about as much. But really just hammering the point home when you're talking to families, especially early on when we were talking about pre-K and kindergarten, emphasizing the importance of being in schools and how that can translate to better attendance when it comes to middle school and high school, and kind of all that kind of leads to better achievement later on in their career, and kind of just literally whether it's with social emotional, getting to know their emotions and relationships with their peers, but their relationship with their teacher, and making it very apparent to the families that even as early as pre-K and kindergarten, that's important that they establish their foundations that will help them further on.
Oh, I love that, Patrick. Really setting those habits, learning them early, learning, giving them strategies, thinking of like executive functioning, right? Teaching them those skills to bring, to bring them to a habit that's healthy, can get them to school on time, and even express that with families and their parents and work with that. What a great topic to talk about. Okay. And if anyone else would like to share, please feel free also to reach out to us if you have any further ideas or want to share something or get a resource. But we are pretty much at time. And I want to just share a few things before we close out. So we have our new Talk Tuesday survey 2025 that is out. It is, we really are looking for as much completion of this as possible. This gives us a great insight into how Talk Tuesdays worked for you, how maybe improvements to make them a little bit better, or some things you want to celebrate that were really great. It gives us a great idea from the participants' lens. It's only a few questions, only about 10 questions. It will only take you about a minute or so. But we will send this out in a follow-up email with the link, and we will have this multiple times too in the rest of the remaining Talk Tuesdays. But to get an early start, we want to make sure to include it for this Talk Tuesday. So the link is in the chat, and if you have any problems with it, just reach out and let us know. Hard to believe, we have 2 more Talk Tuesdays left to go. We have May 13th and May 27th. This year has certainly flown by. But we are looking for some exciting district presentations on the 13th, and we're really hoping Attendance Works will join us on the 27th. So if anyone, by the way, if anyone has not registered yet, it's still not too late. Registration link is in this box. Please also remember, don't share the link with anybody. Have them register, that way they'll get the link. Also, we did have, just to give you the heads up, a lot of passcode issues this morning that we've seen. The passcode sometimes is needed for this, but we're investigating some of the issues people might have had. So we just wanted to give you the heads up on it. The passcode will always be in your link, in your confirmation that you get, or your reminder. So it's always the meeting ID, and then there's that passcode in there as well. But let us know if you have any other issues. We'll really look into it. And if you need us to contact us, questions, concerns, thoughts, here are our email addresses and contact information. We thank you for taking the time today to join us for Talk Tuesday. We appreciate each one of you, and we look forward to seeing you on the 13th. Have a wonderful day, everybody.